Thanks for watching. Today we're going to work a tiny bit on the new AXIAL CJ7. You may have seen me unbox this truck in a previous video. I love the thing. I do, however, see some room for improvement, so we're going to make a little start with improving some of the features on it today. The most important thing, and you might already be able to see that I have completed one side, is the suspension. So I'm going to alter the suspension because I find the ride height a tiny bit on the high side. You will also see that if you pull this thing out of the box, there's a ton of preload on those rear shocks. You want to change that right away, just get it to drop a tiny bit more, I think, because it just looks a lot better. And what I did in addition to mine, at least on the one side, is I relocated the shocks. You must all be familiar, I guess, with Team K&K. There's some rusty hardware in here too, so that's some of the takeoffs. This is actually a bag that I used for one of my SCX6s, and I found that there was some spare hardware in there that currently is coming in really handy. So 25mm long screws that I'm using to relocate the rear shock. I use those on the fronts as well, but the rear is a tiny bit more finicky since you need to have a spacer over there in order for the spring perch nut to rub on the mount that you usually use for the shock. That sounded a bit overcomplicated, but over here you can kind of see what I mean by it. So the minute you relocate the shock and you move it over to a lower link mount, you risk rubbing the perch on that previous mount that you used for your shock. Now, you could, of course, hack that off, but I'm not a fan of putting the saw in an axle of a brand new truck. I did do that, for example, on my SCX6 Shorty, but then again, you know, got a few spares of those, and these I just want to keep them relocatable in case I do want to change something out. This does mean that we are going to run the standard shocks. At first I thought that I might want to have like a shorter shock absorber, but actually that 100mm shock works fine the way that it sits currently. What I also did is I relocated the shock location in the top of the front, and in the rear I'm running it as it is. Now, to get this going pretty easy, you just take those center caps off the rims, like so, and then you take the wheel nuts off. And after you do that, then you have a good overview of the shocks and of their location, and also of the lower link mounts. So just removing this will give you full access to do whatever it is that you want to do from here out. These trucks are really easy to work on, and that's also what I really like about these AXIAL trucks. They come with some really clear instructions as well. I think most companies really have that down currently. Vanquish as well does a great job in including a good manual with their trucks, but with AXIAL as well, it's really easy to work on these trucks. Now, if you have a look over here, you will be able to see that this screw over here, we're going to take that out, and then we're going to put a longer screw in the lower link mount over there. We're going to do the same in the front, so this screw is going to be removed, and then we're going to thread a longer one inside of that lower link mount over there, thus dropping the truck approximately ½ an inch, or if you're in Europe, a tiny bit over a centimeter. Now, the only thing you need to do in the front is you need to keep an eye on that perch. So there is a clamping screw in the lower perch that will kind of obstruct with the previous shock location. So in order to avoid that, you want to turn it 180 degrees. It is a directionally fixed clamp, so you cannot just freely turn it around. So you need to actually physically turn it 180 degrees. It's not like it floats on its own. What I'm doing for the screw in the rear location is I'm using a little nut as a spacer, and that's just enough. So you only need like 2-3 millimeters in order for it to create enough offset for it not to obstruct in any way on that previous shock location. So a tiny nut like that does the trick. Here you can tell this is that clamped perch that I'm then turning or rotating 180 degrees. Put the screw in, put the nut in on the other end, I always think it's great fun to experiment a tiny bit with shock locations and also with links, for example. These directional links, they're really easy to thread them out, and by doing that you can push your front axle a bit forward, for example, or your rear axle backwards, or you can tuck it in if they're not completely threaded in yet, and it can just completely change the behavior or the look of your truck. So feel free to experiment with that a tiny bit. Also, you can of course adjust the caster angle of your front axle by adjusting the lower links or by turning in the top link a tiny bit. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing in front. Right now you can tell in the back that this is in the same location as the other one, so that one is solved. And then the only thing we need to do in addition in the front is relocate the top location of that shock absorber. Since I dropped it down a tiny bit just to avoid it rubbing on the inside of that tubed fender. 25 millimeters is right about perfect. I found that on the other side you do get awfully close to the back of the pumpkin, but you don't thread into it, so don't worry about getting really close to it. Now, just for the sake of demonstration, I will throw the wheels on there, but without their wheel nuts, just because I'm going to change it out anyway to those Spektrum rims. Just to give you a tiny bit of an idea on stance, that is way better, I think. Especially if I drop the body down completely. Good, I like that. I like that a lot actually. I'm going to take some of the preload of the rear shocks because that's still fully turned up like it was from the factory on this side. And then you will see it kind of sits level right now. Sits a lot lower. I like this. Very simple. You don't need any parts. Well, apart from a couple of screws, but apart from that, you can just use the stock shocks. So this doesn't cost you a dime. Just relocate them and you will find that I think it looks a lot better as well as it sits right now. What I also did is I heated up the sticker in the front a tiny bit. Plus I cut it just to get rid of the air pocket that was underneath it. You will see that there is a huge air pocket in that front windscreen as well. But I'm just going to take that entire sticker off and paint it up. I think that's better in my case. What I also do not like is that Jeep logo over here. So that's going to move just because it kind of gets rubbed against the rock slider. So we're going to take these two off. We're going to take the Axial logos off just because I think that color-wise they look a bit stupid with the green. Not because I hate the logo, but also because I do think that it's nicely represented over here already in the front with that topographical design, plus then in the door. So we're going to keep that as well. I might lighten these doors a tiny bit by cutting some of the plastic out, but we will see about that, not in this video at least. Another thing, of course, wheels and tires. So if I take these two off, just since I have these two nuts undone anyway, just throw two of these Spektrum rims on here. These are Spektrum rims. The tires are made by Proline. So these are the Proline Toyo Open Country tires, and these Spektrum rims, I've had these laying around for a while already, and I just think that they are going to look sick with the blue on this ready-to-run truck. You will also see that they're not as tall as the stock tires, so these tires are a bit less in diameter than the stockers, and that as well improves the stance greatly, I think. And it also adds a bit of a realism. Something more that I want to do about the realism is this whole clear or this whole blank panel behind those two seats. I think I'm going to hack this out and we're going to do something fun over here. I might actually do something on my laser cutter. Maybe a wooden bed floor, something along those lines. If you have any ideas or suggestions, I would love to hear them. Leave them in the comment section. And also, if you enjoy these videos, don't forget to subscribe. And also, do not forget to push the like button. That's greatly appreciated. And it assists my videos in the YouTube algorithm. Sometimes, you know, and while you're building, you're getting some new ideas and you're also getting some new insights. That's also going on over here. I removed this sticker. I think this looks way nicer. I actually think that it looks really coherent and really cool so far. So, so far so good, really happy. I also think that I want to paint the front a tiny bit. So the grille section, I'm going to of course take the headlights out and all of that crap. But I do think that that grille section could benefit from a bit of color. And of course I'm not going to paint it green or some other dumb color because I'm not an idiot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can have some gunmetal somewhere to kind of match the rest of the body. For now, I wanted to have a look at that front windscreen. Being a man, I don't read any instructions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unbolt this, and then I see a couple of screws over there. I think that that will undo the whole windshield, and then I'm going to peel the sticker off, and I also can, after I do that, I can install these. Now these are a bit more complicated. It's not complicated, of course, but these are a bit more elaborate than you would perhaps think. It's not like, oh, I'm just gonna stick this on and it's gonna be good. You actually need to undo a screw over here. You need to undo a screw on the inside. You need to take the mirror off because you need to transplant that. And then if you want to run any type of light over here, you need to do that as well. So you need to find some additional hardware if you don't have the screws to do that, for example. I have some really cheap lights. This is going to be a funny video because I got some lights that cost like 60 or 70 bucks, and then I have some lights that cost like $2. There is, of course, an immense difference in what they do and what they look like. But I think for the sake of seeing that there's a ton of different options out there, a ton of different flavors, and of course some stuff is more pricey than others, it's going to be fun to include these as well. So these AliExpress, really cheap. I'm not even sure if they'll light up. I'm not even sure if I'm going to wire them up. I just thought that they looked cool, and they're also going to look cool on the bottom of the windscreen over here saying IPF or IPF. I also have some Hellas. Those were also hella cheap, but for this build I'm going to go with for this little facelift spruce up, I'm going to go with these IPFs. Anyway, take all the screws out, put the brackets on, put the mirrors back on. Do need to also decide something about paint on the windscreen. I'm not going to paint the windscreen. Again, I'm an idiot, but I'm not that much of an idiot. But I am going to paint the surrounding because there's no way in hell that I'm even going to try to make this sticker stick. So that's going to be the next step. Well, this was super simple. One screw over here and one screw over here. So you take those out from the inside, 2 screws on the top, and then you also take the windshield wipers off. And the minute you've done that, this entire front windshield will just come undone. I have seen people also experiment with making them folding. Looks really cool. I'm not going to do that just because I like having it up like that. What you will also see is that this is really nice paint work. Sometimes when you have a ready-to-run truck, you will see that the window masking has been applied very sloppy, with it kind of like overspraying, barely covering. You kind of need the whole window sticker to cover up the window area, just because they have been really sloppy with the window mask. Not in this case. So you can see that it is really super on the edge, perfectly applied window masking. However, the sticker on the front, not so perfect. You could apply some heat, try to push it down. I'm not going to do that, just because I am definitely a fan of having painted window trims. They're really easy to do, they're fun to do as well, and I highly recommend you trying that at home too. All you need is a Tamiya PS5 Black. So I got over here in my painting drawer, I got plenty of paints, but PS5 Black is something that I always have in stock, just in case I need to use it for a little project like this. I appreciate it if you made it this far into the video. I will now give you perhaps one of my best painting tips ever. I see a lot of people, they buy a roll of tape. I always mask with tape. Sometimes if I have a really elaborate masking project, I will do a liquid mask, but 90% of my paint jobs are done with tape. Now, some people say that in order to keep your tape clean, and I will get into that a tiny bit later, you can keep them in a Ziploc bag, for example. I never do that. you don't want to use the side of your tape as your painting edge. So say for example you want to paint something colored like this line that they have made into a sticker in this case. You don't want to just get a piece of tape and then mask it up until the point where that color is going to sit. So use the edge of the tape as your painting edge. That will always look nasty. It will always look rough. It will always look ugly. It might bleed and it will never yield a good end result. So never ever do that. I know that some people like to have the Tamiya tapes, for example, and then they try to really press that down. Sometimes it works. For me, it never works. I never use the edge of the tape to edge my masking. I always cut. So just let go of the whole idea that you can use your masking tape to create a cut. You can never use masking tape to create a cut. And I will explain to you why. It doesn't matter if you have pets or not, there is always some type of lint floating around in any type of room. And even if there isn't, you can easily contaminate the side of a roll of tape by just pressing it against your sweater, for example. It will pick up lint, and once it has done that, you will see that when you roll it out, if you're really detailed and you look at the edge of that edge of the tape is nasty as F. So never use the edge of your tape to make a cut line. You always use a blade to make a cut line. Now in this case, this is masked up, so the outside is masked up and the inside is masked up. So what I'm going to do is the inside I'm going to cut quite a bit smaller than the window bead, so about 2-3 millimeters approximately. Then on the outside I'm going to just chase this window bead. After that I will paint all of it black. So I will paint the inside and I will paint that outside bead. Then I will paint the outside bead with a flat clear as well, just to have a bit more of a matte effect going on it. If you don't have any flat clear, don't panic. You'll be good, you'll be fine. You don't need it to have like a good result. And I will also cut one extra line just to have that sun visor that I was speaking about earlier. And then I will fill that in with a smoke. After that we will unmask everything. If you want to keep this looking gunmetal, I really don't care. But if you do want to keep it looking gunmetal, or if you have the other CJ7 and you want to keep it looking red, do make sure that you mask up the outside of the inside as well. I hope it makes sense. This tip, it's for free, it's for you, because you were watching till this far in the video. We're 17 minutes in, or however far, and I think that this is going to make a massive difference in the appearance of this truck. Alright, let's cut and paint. Now, I think just in order to prevent this from becoming a half-hour video, we're going to leave it at this. I just painted the window section, so you can see that over here. We are going to unwrap this before I'm going to sign off. So you can tell that I have flat cleared that rubber bead on the outside, or what is going to appear hopefully as a rubber bead. And then the sun visor, that whole part I did with a brief coat of a really short burst of a smoke. Make sure that you heat your cans a tiny bit. So put them in a tiny pan of like hot water. That's what I always do, like inch and a half, doesn't have to be a lot. Really hot water, just let it soak in there for like 2-3 minutes. Gets the pressure up, make sure that you get nice and even sprays. Now let's take the masking off. This is always, still after all these years, this is an exciting part, I think, of any type of customization. So that smoke, it's actually a trick that I do in a lot of my paint jobs. And it's a very effective and a very nice, I think, detail to blend into your paint schemes. Same goes for those window beads. If you can do it, and if you can use your own window masks rather than the one that you get from the factory. I know that Proline has some nice vinyl masks, but if you can cut your own window masks, that's always worth it, I think. Now this is what it looks like on the inside, so you can tell barely noticeable that smoke in the top, but it is there. Yeah, this turned out nice. Now what I'm going to do before I'm going to mount this, I'm going to use that Protoform Better Edge sanding block just to get the burrs off of the bottom of this piece. But I'm not going to mount it in this video. I will do that in the next one. Because we have plenty of stuff to do still. I want to mount those lights as well, those IPF lights. I also want to mount an LED bar. I still want to do something with the interior as well before I'm going to take this truck out and run it. We got a horrible amount of snow over here, so that also makes me a bit less keen to go out and play tiny trucks. Unless it's, for example, an SCX6, because those are a bit more suitable to drive around in deep snow, I think. Also in the next video, because I was going to do that in this video, next video we're going to mount the RC 4-wheel drive winch. And we are also going to mount the contents of this box. Why are you CEC? I'm not sure how you say this, but I think that why are you CEC is a kind of a funny name. Pretty sure that you pronounce it differently. Now look at this. This is how it turns out. Really easy to do, and I think it adds a lot of detail. And also it makes it look a lot cleaner than a sticker. So if you can paint a window frame, always do it. Next video, these will go on, or this will go on. I will let you guess what it is. The winch will go on. These IPF lights will go on. We will mount an LED bar and some interior work. All of that in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me. It's a bit off the cuff, this video. Any links to any of the products that I've showed today. So the Spec RC rims, the Toyo tires, of course the CJ7 itself, and then the paint that I used as well. I will throw that in there. All of that is in the video description box. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.
Back on.